during their stay in the country. I thank you, and as they say in Ghana, Agwaba. Next.
Order number 3, messages.
Honorable members at the bar, take the nearest seats. Thiong'O, where is your nearest seat? I have a message from the Senate on the passage of the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2025. Honorable members, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 41-4 relating to messages from the Senate, I wish to report to the House that I received a message from the Senate dated 29th May 2025 regarding the passage of the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2025. The message conveys that on Wednesday, 28th May 2025, the Senate considered and passed the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2025, order with amendments. The Senate has now referred the bill back to the National Assembly for reconsideration in accordance with the provisions of Article 112(1)(b) of the Constitution. Honourable members, you will recall that on Wednesday, 9th April 2025, this House considered and passed the said bill without amendments, following which I referred the bill to the Senate for consideration in accordance with the provisions of Article 110(4) of the Constitution. In this regard, the House is required to consider the Senate amendments to the bill. Honourable members, you will agree with me that the passage of the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill 2025 is central to unlocking the consideration of other business related to the budget for the year 25-26, particularly the consideration of the Appropriation Bill 2025 and the Count Allocation of Revenue Bill 2025. In this regard, and so as to facilitate the expedited consideration of the Senate amendments to the said bill by this House, I directed the clerk to schedule the bill in the order paper for this sitting. Indeed, as you may have noticed in today's order paper, the motion for consideration of Senate amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2025, and the Committee of the Whole House on the Senate amendments have been listed as order numbers 12 and 13, respectively. Additionally, I instructed the clerk to publish the Senate amendments to the bill in the order paper. Honourable members, in view of the foregoing, I urge the House to dispense with the Senate amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill 2025 in today's sitting. I also hasten to restate that the conclusion of the said bill will pave the way for the consideration of the Count Allocation of Revenue Bill 2025 with the prescribed timelines so as to facilitate timely disbursement of the requisite funds to our county governments. It will also enable finalization of the allocation of revenues raised nationally for the national government through the Appropriation Bill 2025, following consideration of the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the annual estimates for the year 2025-26 financial year. The House is accordingly guided. I thank you. Next.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. A. Annual Report of the Kenya Law Reform Commission for the financial year 2023-2024. Annual Report of Activities and Financial Statements of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for the financial year 2023-2024. First half report of the County Government Budget Implementation Review for the financial year 2024-2025. D. Annual Report of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights for the financial year 2023-2024. E. Annual report and financial statements of Privatization Commission for the year ended 30th June 2024. F. Quarterly report of economic and budgetary review of the National Treasury and Economic Planning third quarter of the financial year 2024-2025. G. The 2025 Economic Survey Report from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. H. Reports of the Auditor General Financial Statements for the years ended 30th June 2023 and 30th June 2024, and certificates therein in respect of the following: Aldai Technical Training Institute, Kipsoen Technical and Vocational College, Masai Technical Training Institute, Masinga Technical and Vocational College. 5. Mochongoi Technical and Vocational College. 6. Molo Technical and Vocational College. 7. Ngong Technical and Vocational College. 8. Nu Technical and Vocational College. 9. Tarbaj Technical and Vocational College. And lastly, 10. Wajir East Technical and Vocational College. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Thank you. Chairman, Budget and Appropriations Committee, that will be stayed. The report has not been presented to the Speaker for approval yet. Chairman, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. Murugara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 3rd June, report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on its consideration of the report on the approval hearings of nominees for appointment as chairperson and members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Murugara.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on the vetting of nominees for appointment as chairperson and members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, laid on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 3rd June 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 252B of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Mr. Erastus Edung Ethekon as the chairperson and Ms. Anne Jerry Nderito, Mr. Moses Alutalala Muhwana, Ms. Karen Sorobet, Mary Karen Sorobet, Mr. Hassan Nur Hassan, Mr. Francis Ofiambo Aduol, and Ms. Fahima Arafat Abdallah as members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Murugara. Honorable members, allow me to acknowledge in the Speaker's gallery, Chebonei Girls High School from Bomet Central, Bomet. In the public gallery, Oshol Academy from Nyali, Mombasa, Kigumo Bendera from Kigumo, Muranga, Sirwa Aulo Junior School from Kilgoris, Narok, Thua Secondary School from Kitui East, Kitui County. On my behalf and on behalf of the House, we welcome all the students, their teachers, and those accompanying them to the House of Parliament. Honorable members, I will rearrange the order on the order paper as follows. Having done notices of motion, we'll go to orders number 8, 9, 10, and 11 to put questions. Thereafter, we'll spend 30 minutes on the eulogy and paying respect to the late Ngungi wa Thiong'O. Thereafter, we'll come back to questions and statements. There are quite a number of statements. Then at order number 12, if the House is not in agreement with the Senate on the amendments on the division of revenue, then order number 13 will not be considered, will be required to immediately constitute committees for mediation. So clerk, call out order number 8 onwards.
Order number 8, motion, report of the committee's consideration of the President's reservations to the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023, question to be put.
Members on their feet, take your seats. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 8, which is that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the President's reservations, the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next.
Order number 9, motion, report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the President's reservations to the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2025, question to be put.
Order, Mama Mombasa, take your seat. Stop swagging. Honorable members, I didn't know Honorable Zamzam can. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 9, which that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the President's memorandum, President's reservation to the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2025. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. For the nays to have it, you must have 233 members. Obviously, the voices I've heard are hardly 15, so the ayes have it.
Order number 10, motion, third report on consideration of the audited accounts of specified corporations. Question to be put.
Order, Honorable Member for Naivasha, take the nearest seat. Like if you are not the same. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 10, which is that this House adopts the third report of the Public Investments Committee on Social Services Administration and Agriculture on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the following state corporations laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 30th July 2024. Kenyatta National Hospital, financial year 2018-2019 and 2019-2020. Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, financial year 2018, 2019. Kenya Veterinary Board, financial year 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021. National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, financial year 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, and 2020, 2021. And the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, financial year 2000, 2001, 2001, 2002, 2002, 2003, 2003, 2004, 2004, 2005, 2005, 2006, 2006, 2007, 2007, 2008, 2008, 2009, 2009, 2010, 2010, 2011, 2011, 2012, and 2012 to 2013. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next.
Order number 11, motion, consideration of sessional paper number 7 of 2024 on the National Sanitation Management Policy. Question to be put.
Members on their feet, take the nearest seats. Honorable members, I'll now put the question at order number 11, which is that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Blue Economy, Water and Irrigation on its consideration of sessional paper number 7 of 2024 on the National Sanitation Management Policy, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 17th April 2025, and approved sessional paper number 7 of 2024 on the National Sanitation Management Policy, subject to the revisions as contained in the schedule to the report. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I think we can also dispose of order number 12. Clerk.
Order number 12, motion, consideration of Senate amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2025.
Is the chairman budget in the House? Leader of majority will. Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Senate amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2025 be now considered. Honorable Speaker, just brief to members that this Division of Revenue Bill, as approved by the House, had about 405 billion shillings. But the other House has since amended that and proposed that we increase that to about 465 billion. That is 6 above what is agreed. And bearing in mind the fiscal space that we have, Honorable Speaker, it may not be practical to increase by 60 billion shillings. I hear the member for Bumula saying we should be reducing, not increasing. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, having considered that, we thought it's only fair that we reject these amendments by the Senate to allow us to go into early mediation, and therefore beg to move the House to reject in totality this proposal by the Senate. And I therefore beg to move and request the Honorable Wamboka to second.
Honorable Speaker, we want to reject in total.
Start by saying I beg to second.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to second. Bearing in mind the space the country is operating in, the fiscal space, it is only abnormal for anyone to think we should be increasing these monies upwards. So in that, on this thing, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reject as I second Honorable Ichung'wa. We reject it and put the question, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that the Senate amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2025 be now considered. I put the question. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 12, which is that the Senate amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2025 be now considered. As members of that opinion say aye. As members of the contrary opinion say nay. Nay. The nays have it. Honorable members, that vote invalidates the presence of order number 13 on the order paper. So order number 13 is now struck out from the order paper. Honorable members, now it's time I'll give the House 30 minutes or so to pay tribute to one of the greatest sons of this country in the literary world, the late Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'O, whose books yours truly here has read each and every one of them. And I hope each one of you has done the same. Except those written in Kikuyu language. I've read all those written in English. I now invite the majority leader to lead the House, and I suggest members that we give the majority leader 5 minutes and the rest who will speak 2 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to pay tribute, as you say, to one of the greatest sons of our nation, and also a great son of my county, Kiambu, and notably also an old boy of the school. And when I speak about the school, it's a school that he attended in the year 1955 to about 1959 before he joined Makerere University. And Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Tiende Amolo, also understands the school I'm speaking about is not Miranda High School. It is the Alliance High School. And Honorable Speaker, I was saying before he went to Makerere University, where he started his writing career and did exemplary well, writing his first 2 novels in English. The first novel, Honorable Speaker, being The Weep Not Child, that he published in the year 1964. Honorable Speaker, also notable, this is around the time that we are becoming a republic. And he had graduated from university in 1963 when this country was gaining independence. And also, Honorable Speaker, it's notable to note that the Honorable Ngungi wa Thiong'O says in his writings and recalls how his village in Limuru in Kamiredo, where he was born, was raised down by the colonial masters. And probably this is what provoked him when he went to Alliance High School. And after his first semester or his first term in school, he went back home and found the entire village raised down to the ground. And I was saying probably this is what provoked him to even later in life, around 1967 to 1970, to drop the name James Ngugi and adopt his names as we know them today as Ngugi wa Thiong'O. Honorable Speaker, as we pay tribute to this great man, a writer who has not only taught literature and English language in many universities here in Africa, beginning with his alma mater, Makerere University, and also came back home to teach at the University of Nairobi before he was imprisoned. He's also taught great universities, Ivy League universities like Yale University, Honorable Speaker, in the US, where he has taught. Northwestern University also, he has been a guest lecturer there. And he has therefore contributed immensely, not just to the growth of literature, but also to the growth of African languages, Honorable Speaker. But this is not to say, Honorable Speaker, and I heard you say you have read all his novels, except those like Gahi Kadeda, I Will Marry When I Want, that he wrote in Kikuyu, or Shaitani Modara Vaine, which says it's Devil on the Cross. But I think the Devil on the Cross was later translated into English. And therefore, you may have had the opportunity to read these novels, Honorable Speaker. But I'm saying this because Ngungi wa Thiong'O dropped his English name, adopted his Kikuyu names, dropped the name James for Ngungi wa Thiong'O, and also began to write in the Gikuyu language. Not because he was a tribalist, Honorable Speaker, because Ngungi wa Thiong'O was such a nationalist that when he was imprisoned here for a year, sent into detention by the past regimes, Honorable Speaker, in the 70s, he was imprisoned with many other political prisoners who were not necessarily of the Kikuyu descent. And he lived on to fight for justice, equality in the country of Kenya, irrespective of where you came from, Honorable Speaker. And the fact that he has not only taught students from across the world, from different backgrounds, Honorable Speaker, but even his associations, Honorable Speaker, in the literary world, speaks volumes of the man that Ngungi wa Thiong'o was, that he was never at any point in time in his life. He valued his ancestry, he valued his background as a Kikuyu from Limuru, but he never allowed that to be anything to use to lord over others, Honorable Speaker, or even to believe that there was one community that was greater than the other, Honorable Speaker. And he used the African languages, Honorable Speaker, and he has motivated and encouraged very many other African writers to write in their mother tongue, Honorable Speaker, and this is something that we pay great tribute to for him, not just his contributions in the academia, Honorable Speaker, but also as a political thinker and shaping the thinking of many African children, African students, and many other indigenous communities around the world, as he taught in many universities around the world, Honorable Speaker. I therefore pay tribute to this great son of Kenya, an old boy of my school, the Alliance High School, and also a great son of the county of Kiambu and my neighboring constituency, Limuru, Honorable Speaker. And how I wish, Honorable Speaker, that Kameredo, because the Member of Parliament for Limuru is here, they would consider the cultural theater that was at Kameredo being further developed into a cultural center for Kiambu County, for our country.
Time up. Otienda Molo. Honorable members, the screen is full. I found it full, so it can't have been for this. So those who will speak, I'll just request a show of hands. When every time one member finishes, then you do so. Otienda Molo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to eulogize the late Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'o. Ngungi wa Thiong'o demonstrates defiance, first in terms of name. He had the courage to drop what was called his Christian name. Secondly, the idea of writing in vernacular, we call intolerance. And there's a long list of his contemporaries who had to flee the country at the time, including the late Professor Ali Mazrui, including those who are living even now, like Professor Shadrach Guto in South Africa, and many others. I think in his life is a lesson that we must have some level of political tolerance, even of those with whom we do not agree. Because a lot of times, we then have them benefit others. These are giants who ended up benefit others in other countries. Mr. Speaker, even though Ngungi wa Thiong'o may not have won the Nobel Peace Prize, Ngungi wa Thiong'o remains a towering giant in East Africa, in Africa, and in the world, like no other. Mr. Speaker, I think that what we should do is to name something serious in this country in honor of Ngungi wa Thiong'o, not just to name everything after politicians. This is somebody who deserves to be remembered.
Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also take this time to eulogize Ngungi wa Thiong'o, who was a great writer who influenced many of the readers of the time and the children. And as young people would compete on how many books of Ngungi and other writers you would have read during that particular time. But I think what I find quite strong about Ngungi was that he had to compete with very good writers from West Africa, because in that particular time of the 80s and 70s, the West African writers were doing very well, the likes of Chinua Achebe, the likes of Lechi Amadi with The Concubine, and Aldo and others. But Ngungi came out very strongly from the East African region to also compete very competitively with the West African writers, and he was a celebrity for the East African people. And therefore, I think this was one of the greatest. But one other thing I find very strong about him was the fact that he wrote about class struggles at a time when nobody wanted to tolerate the politics of class struggle, which remains with us today. And partly that's why he was imprisoned and then fled the country to go out.
That is in the Petals of Blood.
Petals of Blood. Thank you. You are a master. Thank you. In the Petals of Blood, he tries to bring out that very confidently. And I think we should have more tolerance in our times to literal word and those who are writing. So when I see a place like the Shackles of Blood get trouble, I just blame those who are invading the space of academics and are not teachers. If we allow teachers to do these things without much of the competition and blocking, would really improve our little world. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Rachel Nyamai.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to eulogize our son, the son of the world, a linguist, a creative, and a gift to this country. Honorable Speaker, I would like to go direct to the family that the Honorable Ngungi wa Thiong'o has left for us. I could not move my eyes from the screen, Honorable Speaker, watching the children of Ngungi wa Thiong'o. He has left us children who are grounded, children that he must have taught and given the right way to follow. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a lesson that we need to pick as a house, that we need to know that no matter how busy we are, no matter how many parts of the world we go to, at the end of the day, it's family. Honorable Speaker, about patriotism, Honorable Speaker, he traveled to so many parts of the world and he was not happy with the situation at home at times. But he remained patriotic to our country, making sure that he wrote books that showed love for this country. Honorable Speaker, I would like to also point out that we have so much to learn from him. And I would like to thank you very much for your communication or the statement you made on that day, that we did not see his face in all our dailies, Honorable Speaker. And we need to urge our media houses to be more patriotic and to love Kenyans like the late Ngungi wa Thiong'o. Honorable Speaker, I would like also to ask the House that the children that Ngungi wa Thiong'o has left for us has shown us that we need to rethink, Mr. Speaker, about family planning, Honorable Speaker. We needed human power together with the land we have. And this is a debate that I think we must have one day to think of whether we should have been encouraged by our colonialists to have only 2 children.
Thank you, Morogara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me also join the rest of the House and Kenyans in eulogizing one great man of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I commend you that on the day after he passed on, you actually took time to inform the media that instead of writing headlines of non-issues, we should have had a headline with the late Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'o as the one to be remembered. Actually, the following day it happened, and that was extremely good because Kenyans were able to recollect the lives and times of the late Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'o. It's always important to remember when he left the school, the Alliance High School, went to Makerere University for his studies that time, where he met the late Mwai Kibaki, who was supposed to be his lecturer. But instead, Kibaki advised him to do literature or Bachelor of Arts in English, as it was called that time, because he was not very good in economics, but he was extremely good in literature, in writing the written word, and he had the power of the gab. What we encourage our learners today, and especially those who are in school, it's not just to read the works of the late Ngungi wa Thiong'o, but to take a cue from him, skills, so that after Ngungi wa Thiong'o, we are able to produce many more Ngungi wa Thiong'os who will tower Africa in the likes of Chinua Achebe and the rest in writing. Therefore, today, we eulogize a great man of the Republic of Kenya, the late Ngungi wa Thiong'o, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you very much.
Mele Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on my behalf and on behalf of the people of Suba North, we bring our message of condolences to the family of Ngungi wa Thiong'o and even to Kenya as a whole, because this is a loss to Kenya as a country. Mr. Speaker, when I was a young girl, I used to work at my uncle's bookshop. And even though I was very young, I would still struggle to read the difficult English. So just like you, I think I probably read all of them, even though I didn't understand many of them. But Mr. Speaker, one of the things that stood out for me is that I want to comment about is the River Between. And Mr. Speaker, you look at the River Between, you look at the influence of the British colonization through the eyes of Muthoni. Mr. Speaker, I want to specifically single out the way he dealt with the issue of feminism. Majority of the characters in that book are women that he exalts, and he shows them as fighting tyranny and exploitation. Mr. Speaker, he sees women as victims of African society and patriarchal system. And to liberate themselves, they endeavored to shatter the patriarchal obstacles and bring about change. Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that he was way ahead of time. There are some of the issues that we are now talking about and we are giving name to, for instance, intersectionality. But he already dealt with issues that converge and bring women down, like the intersectionality of gender, race, and even ethnicity. And so, with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me this
Member for Limuru.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to eulogize one of our own, Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'o. As I stand, Honorable Speaker, I speak of a man who I knew for the longest time in my life. I witnessed him writing the books, some of them that people have mentioned, but I have also witnessed a journey for him when he was being persecuted. I was there delivering a book written by Steve Biko to him in detention. I was at the University of Nairobi when we were told to remove all his books after detention, and I saw him off the first time he led out of this country. But Honorable Speaker, this is one person who was very good for the rest of the world, but it looks like there was a plan to make sure that Ngungi will never have a peace in his own country. We know that he was denied to teach at the University of Nairobi. He was not allowed to go back to Kameredo to continue with his theater works. And above all, the system that didn't want him to be in Nairobi, didn't want him to be in Kenya, continued to persecute even the family to a point where Ngungi had to part a lot with the rest of the family. And as we now said, say goodbye to him, Honorable Speaker, my prayer is that the children of Ngungi will have peace, can come back to this country and contribute. And for all of us to make sure that Ngungi will not be forgotten for what he did to this country. May his soul.
Julia Sunguli.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to join everybody else in eulogizing Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'o. He was definitely a literary giant in the 70s, and that is why a UK newspaper said about him when he was about 33 years that he is accepted as one of Africa's outstanding contemporary writers. His best books, Mr. Speaker, were the books that he wrote under the name of James Ngungi. The book of The River Between, A Grain of Wheat, and Weep Not Child. That is actually why the 70s would remember Ngungi. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, something happened to Ngungi later on. When the world was embracing him, he seems to have retreated from the world. First, he retreated from Christianity. He changed his name, James. He returned his baptismal card and retreated away from Christianity. Then, Mr. Speaker, he retreated from the English language, the one that had made him a giant, and started writing in Kikuyu and having characters only within the Kikuyu language and Kikuyu culture. That actually is perhaps one of the reasons why the people who went to school after the 70s do not remember Ngungi as much as you and I do. Mr. Speaker, he withdrew, of course, when he was detained by Jomo Kenyatta, he must have suffered a lot. President Moi released him as soon as he became president, and he immigrated into the West. But this does not take away from the fact that, Mr. Speaker, at one time, Ngungi was a prolific writer, an artist, a novelist we shall always remember, and we shall place his name in the records of history. I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Bayer.
Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you and wish to eulogize Ngungi wa Thiong'o. You know, Honorable Speaker, I'm a student of literature and having taught literature at different levels. But Honorable Speaker, I want to say that the late Ngungi wa Thiong'o will remember him for the African Writers series as a pioneer of that book, that level of books, where many Africans got an opportunity not just to write, but to write and publish, where the African Writers series was published then as one of the biggest publishing houses, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, secondly, I remember Ngungi wa Thiong'o for his book, Decolonizing the Mind, one of the greatest works of literature that he ever wrote. It is a series of papers that he put together, Honorable Speaker, and it is in Decolonizing the Mind, Honorable Speaker, that we find true sense. Honorable Speaker, one of his great books that people never talk about is The Devil on the Cross. The Devil on the Cross was one of Ngungi's greatest book. Actually, it is The Devil on the Cross that runs crosshairs with Daniel Arap Moi then when he was president, Honorable Speaker. Although Devil on the Cross is one of the greatest satires that Ngungi wa Thiong'o has ever written. A book that when you read, you get the revolutionary spirit in the writer. You get Ngungi wa Thiong'o, the person who fights for justice, who fights for land rights, a writer who stood up for the common mwananchi in this country. Ngungi wa Thiong'o will go down in history as one of the liberators of Africa, and that is why he could not agree with many presidents, and that's why he could not find space in Africa and chose to live in the United States. Honorable Speaker, we have lost a great man, a literary giant, somebody that was respected not just in the continent of Africa, but in Europe and above and beyond, Honorable Speaker. I thank you, and may God...
The Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to pay tribute to a very distinguished son of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, as had been said before, Ngungi wa Thiong'o was initially called James Thiong'o, and he decided to change his name and drop the English name so that he pays tribute to being an African. But Honorable Speaker, one of the things that I remember about Ngungi wa Thiong'o was a famous quote from one of his books that he used to say, to speak one's language is to celebrate one's identity. And he also said, but to impose a language is a way to divide people, and it is a practice of tribalism of another kind. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, the Ngungi wa Thiong'o was one of the very famous Kenyans who really spoke against tribalism. But the other thing, Honorable Speaker, that we also celebrate Ngungi wa Thiong'o for is in terms of receiving honors, he is one of the most decorated writers in Africa. He received a total of 38 documented awards, one of them being the UNESCO Award for Weep Not Child. But also between the year 2006 and 2007, through one of his books, The Wizard of Oz, Ngungi wa Thiong'o received a total of 6 international awards. That was really something that was exceptional. And Honorable Speaker, the same way that we normally say that we are going to benchmark with other people on the good practices and the good things that we do in Kenya, Ngungi wa Thiong'o is one of those people that we also really know that the rest of the world would want to also emulate and be like him. And I just want to tell especially the people who are here and the people who are listening to us who love soccer, that a team like Arsenal should now emulate Ngungi wa Thiong'o in terms of doing
The Honorable Member for Seme, Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I take this opportunity also eulogize the passing on of our great writer Ngungi wa Thiong'o. His life, Madam Speaker, epitomizes the philosophical basis of life, the idealism that is associated with scholarship, the ability to actually strive and go against all odds to fight for ideal. Madam Speaker, this is what really distinguishes human beings from animals. Animals don't fight for ideals, but human beings fight for ideals, and sometimes they suffer like he suffered. They have to make sometimes very grave decisions at great risk to their lives because there is something they stand for, something they believe will make a difference in the life of the people and in the society. And this, he took his ability in writing to actually express this, agreed to fight with the system that be, to express what he wanted. So really, these really are the people who show to us the roles of universities. Universities are actually to be populated by people who seek ideals, not just the practicalities of life that take time for most of us. So losing a person like him is a great loss to this country. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity.
The Honourable Member for Marsabit, Honourable Naomi Wako.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this very important debate that is going on as we eulogize the great man of this land, someone maybe many of us may not have met physically, but we have interacted with his books and known him. I remember when we were in high school, one of his books, The River Between, was like a must for all of us to read. We interacted with him through his writings. He has inspired many of us, and I want to send my condolences to him, to his family members, to relatives, and all his loved ones on my own behalf and on behalf of the great people of Marsabit, because I know many scholars from our place, many professionals have also gone through his books just as I did. Honorable Speaker, it is not just enough for us to eulogize a great man like him, somebody who has always represented us in a good way, somebody who is internationally celebrated. We should also see how best we can extend our blessings to his family and also see as a nation how he can be celebrated, maybe as the relatives prepare for his burial. Honorable Speaker, we have great men and women who have served this country in different capacity and represented us. And it will only be good for us to appreciate them and also recognize them as heroes. I believe he's one of our heroes and he should be recognized in that capacity even though he has left us. May his soul rest in peace and may God comfort his family. Thank you.
Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence of the following school. Seated in the Speaker's Gallery is Moon Kopir Girls Secondary School from Kajiado East Constituency, Kajiado County. And also seated in the public gallery is St. Mary's Nyabururu School from Kitutu Chache South Constituency, Kisii County. And I'll ask Honorable Donya Doris to welcome the schools on our behalf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my school. I schooled there in class 2 and class 3, St. Mary's Nyabururu, but I can't say the year because you might suspect how old I am. Madam Speaker, as parents and of course members of parliament, we must have nice things to tell our girls. It's only that, oh, you girls, you should be smiling because I schooled in your school. Work hard, it has been the norm. Be humble, be kind, polite as your mama county. I've never even slaughtered a chicken, Madam Speaker. Education is what no one will ever take away from you. They can take your land, they take everything, our children. I can also pass over the message to our girls. But something that no one will ever take away from you is your education. Value your education, respect your teachers. And you have to be good girls, not a bad girl like Honorable Millie Odhiambo. Very, 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 because she has confirmed that. She has told me, Donya, tell them they must be good girls like you, Honorable Donya, and not bad girls like Honorable Millie. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Tigania West, Honorable John Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to join my colleagues in eulogizing the family of late Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'o. Honorable Speaker, Ngungi wa Thiong'o emerged as a self-made man, an African who has really found a space in this world. He satirized the political and the social intolerance that used to be there at that particular point in time. Honorable Speaker, Ngungi wa Thiong'o is among the very few who have taken Africa where it should be, who have left a mark in terms of writing. And the challenge is all of us, Honorable Speaker, to do something about what we do. There are very many things that we do, but we rarely document. And not just documenting, we also rarely challenge our young people to be able to think about their surroundings, think about the situations that they are in at one given time, and see how they can develop out of such situations. Honorable Speaker, Ngungi wa Thiong'o died in exile after he ran away as a result of having been followed or being reprimanded by the then regimes that used to be there. This is one person we should celebrate as a country because he has put East Africa on the map. And Ngungi wa Thiong'o, Honorable Speaker, is not only a naturalist, he's a nationalist, he's an internationalist because his books are read across the world. The time we were in school, we used to read his books, and they used to influence us as young thinkers and young planners in this country. So, Honorable Speaker, Ngungi wa Thiong'o will be remembered by many generations to come. And having interacted with them, it is high time we also got challenged by what he did. I pass my condolences to the family. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Elders, Honorable Kainan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'o was an academic giant, a philosopher, a thinker who has encouraged Pan-Africanism, who has fought colonialism, who has also tried to reduce the influence of new colonial ideas. And Mr. Speaker, we as Africans, and in particular in the academic world, there are people who are called, academicians who are called social fools. But Ngungi wa Thiong'o was a true academician, a person who professed, who believed in the academic world, combined literature with culture. Madam Speaker, combined literature with the inherent and rich African culture, Madam Speaker, and truly will always be remembered as a person who has not only promoted the African literature, the African culture, Pan-Africanism, but also promoted the presence of the African people, the African continent, Madam Speaker, in the global world. Madam Speaker, he will always be remembered as a person truly who has believed in democracy, who has believed in the ideals of the Kenyan people, Madam Speaker. And I know for many who have truly believed in his literature, he has left a legacy. That legacy will be found in his many books. That legacy will be found in his many lectures. That legacy will be found in many interactions that he has had. And therefore, truly will remember you. And may God, wherever you are, rest your soul in eternal peace. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Tinderet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to eulogize Professor Ngungi wa Thiong'o, who was a great African literary writer. In his works, Madam Speaker, Ngungi wa Thiong'o showed how one can communicate language, culture, and traditionalism through the writings of African art of works. Ngungi wa Thiong'o, through his book, The Hermit, actually showed how African traditional way of life could meet with modernity. And this was a way where they were now able to explain the issues of colonialism, the issues of racism, and how the Europeans came over and colonized the Africans through his book, Decolonizing the Mind. One of the things that Ngungi wa Thiong'o actually taught, and I think this should be actually emphasized more even up to today, is that we need to have a lot of respect for our cultures, our traditions, and our language. Today, if you go to the United Nations, the media of communications is actually English, Arabic, French, and other languages. African languages across have not actually been recognized. And I want to say this, that it is important as Africa to know that our languages, our traditions, and even the ways in which we do our work should actually be ingrained even in our school setup. And thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I apologize and say we have lost a great literary giant. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Bondo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if we valued exactly what Professor was, or what he has been since his works, if we value that and we relate it to the kind of exports that we've done as a country, I want to believe that the value of Ngungi's works and what Ngungi has made in terms of people are basically incomparable. We've contributed immensely. He contributed immensely to the world. He contributed immensely to the rest of, when you look at the amount of works Ngungi was able to do in 1 decade, if you want to know how a great a person is, look at that versus what we are having now in a situation where virtually nobody is doing the kind of things that Ngungi was able to do in the 70s and in the beginning of the 80s. So, Madam Speaker, Ngungi has created people. Ngungi has made people to be what they are. And this is the time that we, as a country, we really need to recognize that, no, people are mortal, but what needs to remain is the works. So to us, Ngungi's works remain as eternal, and we're going to be indebted to Ngungi for a much more longer period of time. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Dagoretti, Honorable KJ.
Madam Speaker, I thank you. Ngungi wa Thiong'o was a patriot, and it is for that reason that I, on behalf of my family, the people of Dagoretti South constituency, and even the thespians, artists, and performers of this country, I pass my condolences to the family of this great Kenyan. Madam Speaker, two great artists, Tony Njogona and Walter Mung'are, can bear me witness that we as very young artists were truly inspired by the works of Ngungi wa Thiong'o. Thiong'o, being a thespian and a critic, taught us that there's a very big difference between insults and satire. That even with his very hard-hitting literature, and even with his very stinging critique, he never once bowed down to the temptation of being an insulter, or being toxic, or even being offensive. He knew that there was great power in satire that is not in satire. Madam Speaker, today, in the era of content creation, there is much to learn from the generation of creators and authors like Ngungi wa Thiong'o. Those who are creating content today must learn that intellect has way more power than the toxicity and malice that is being trended left, right, and center. Finally, Madam Speaker, the two causes that Ngungi wa Thiong'o was championing, one on decolonization and the other on the promotion of culture, it will be a great honor for us to honor Ngungi, because we did not honor him enough in his life, to honor him by preserving the great works that he has done using the new technology that allows us to feed in our languages to speak to the new revolution that is the fourth industrial.
Give him a minute to just finish.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. There is a great opportunity for us, with the new and emerging technologies, to onboard all this knowledge that is cultural, traditional, and has great African heritage onto the new industrial revolution, and especially in AI, where we must ask ourselves, what language will these technologies be speaking? And if they are not speaking our language, then we shall be doing the likes of Ngugi wa Thiong'o a great disfavor. So, Honorable Speaker, I would like for us to honor this great Kenyan by making sure that we do not treat his memory the way we treated him in his life. I thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and we honor a great Kenyan.
Just wait. Hello, the Honorable Member for Westlands, Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance also to eulogize Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Madam Speaker, I must also confess I've read his books, and reading his books, you could just start even imagining yourself in a situation, because you read the book, it carries you along. And Madam Speaker, is one of the greatest brains that we have ever produced. And this country has lost big, and many, those younger generation that have not experienced the power of literally, Madam Speaker, they should look at these books. When we were in school, we used to read books about African writers series. And Ngugi wa Thiong'o was one of them, Chinua Achebe, and many Elijah Amadi, and many others, Madam Speaker. And you could read all those books, and they were readily available. We started reading books written by foreigners later in life. But at that time, Madam Speaker, we could read the African writers series. I don't know if they still exist, but that was the best thing, Madam Speaker. Ngugi wa Thiong'o was very creative, and Madam Speaker, he lived his life. He was there, and he has shown Kenyans that it is good to preserve our culture. It's good to preserve our languages. Some of our languages now are being diluted. They're even dying. Some of us are afraid to speak to our children in our own language. We must preserve our African heritage and our languages and culture all the time, learning from Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, the Honorable Member for Tetu. And
thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to eulogize Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Madam Speaker, let me say from the onset, I knew Ngugi, and I had an opportunity to talk to him just about 5 or 6 weeks ago. And his rallying call all the time, as he spoke to me as a young leader, he told me to always remember to advocate for the small farmers and the workers. Ngugi wa Thiong'o was someone who strongly believed in social justice for the small person. And if we look at his life, we can actually see that his brilliance and monumental contributions to literature and thought are celebrated worldwide. Madam Speaker, I have a petition still doing rounds as usual in the House to request this country to bestow the highest honor to Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o. And Madam Speaker, it's sad that this man, despite having worked so hard, despite having given such a great contribution to knowledge, lived about 22 years of his life in exile, away from his home country. And it is only fair that Parliament initiates an honor for him or recommends that he be honored, and that we also look for a national institution that can at least carry his name, and also preferably one road in this country can be named Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o Road. And also the University of Nairobi, where he taught for very many years, would also propose that it can also give him at least one more honor in his honor. So, Madam Speaker, I rise to eulogize a professor and say that this is a man who deserves a little more than he has received.
the Honorable Member Mbaka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
We are way past our time.
Yes, thank you for giving me this opportunity to eulogize Professor Ngungi. Professor was my lecturer at Nairobi University. I took literature, and him and Okotbi Tech, Michere Mugo were our lecturers who we really, really admired because of the depth of knowledge, their artistic world, and the way they mirrored the world through their works. Professor Ngungi was a politician, much as he was a great writer. His works shows you how a politician he was. He talked about poor governance. He wanted to promote the rights of human beings. And he also challenged the coming of the white man. In his River Between, there's a statement where a character is saying, there shall come a people with clothes like butterflies. Those are the white people who came to colonize us. And Ngungi wa Thiong'o talked a lot about the effect of colonialism on the African culture, how our culture was changing because the Europeans came and took away our... He loved to call us by our own African names. And he kept on calling me Achieng, Achieng, Achieng. That is how I remember him. I became